The sun beat down on Kaitlyn Porter's tear-streaked face as the lash cracked through the air, missing her back by mere inches. The crowd gathered in the dusty main street of Willow Creek, Texas, 1875, fell silent as a tall figure stepped between her and her tormentor, catching the whip mid-strike. His hand bled where the leather had wrapped around his palm, but his voice rang clear in the sudden stillness. "She's already taken." Kaitlyn trembled in her tattered wedding dress, wrists bound before her, as she stared at the broad shoulders of the stranger who'd intervened. She didn't know him, had never seen him before in her life, yet here he was, defending her against Bartholomew Quinn, the most feared man in the county. The events leading to this moment had unfolded with terrifying speed. Just hours earlier, Kaitlyn had been preparing for her wedding, a ceremony arranged by her father before his death 3 months prior. Quinn, a wealthy cattle baron with a reputation for cruelty, had purchased the struggling Porter ranch with the understanding that Kaitlyn came with it. She discovered the arrangement only yesterday when Quinn arrived to claim her. "This don't concern you, stranger," Quinn snarled, his face flushed with rage and whiskey. He was a barrel-chested man with a thick beard and small, cruel eyes. "The girl's mine by right, her pa promised her." "A woman isn't property to be promised," the stranger replied, his voice level despite the blood dripping from his hand. "And she clearly doesn't want to marry you." Kaitlyn looked up at her defender, taking in his sun-weathered face, the strong line of his jaw, and eyes the color of a summer storm. He wasn't dressed like the local cowboys. His clothes were trail-worn but well-made, his boots expensive beneath their coating of dust. "I don't know who you think you are," Quinn said, "but you're dead." He reached for the pistol at his hip. "I wouldn't," the stranger warned. "My name is Adam Orwell. Some folks call me the Montana Wolf." He shifted slightly, revealing the pearl handle of his own revolver. "I don't want trouble, but I won't let you harm the lady." Quinn hesitated, and Kaitlyn saw fear flash across his face. Even she had heard stories of the Montana Wolf, a gunslinger known for his uncanny accuracy and his personal code of justice. "You're lying," Quinn blustered, but his hand moved away from his weapon. "Test me if you want," Adam replied evenly, "or you can walk away. Your choice." The silence stretched, broken only by the nervous shuffling of the onlookers and the distant toll of the church bell, ironically signaling the time Kaitlyn's wedding was meant to begin. "This ain't over," Quinn finally growled. He spat in the dirt at Adam's feet, then turned and stalked away, his men following reluctantly behind. Once they were gone, Adam turned to Kaitlyn and gently untied her bound wrists. "Are you hurt, miss?" he asked, his voice softening. "No," she whispered, rubbing her chafed skin. He didn't have time to. She swallowed hard. "Thank you, Mr. Orwell." "Adam," he corrected with a slight smile, "and you are Kaitlyn Porter." She looked down at her ruined wedding dress, once her mother's pride, now torn and stained with dust. "I don't know what I'm going to do now. Quinn won't give up so easily." Adam nodded thoughtfully. "No, I expect he won't." He glanced around at the crowd that was beginning to disperse, noting the mix of sympathy and judgment in their expressions. "Do you have somewhere safe to go?" Kaitlyn shook her head. "The ranch belongs to Quinn now. I was supposed to live there as his." She couldn't finish the sentence. "Come on," Adam said, offering his arm. "Let's get you somewhere private where we can talk. This isn't over, but you're not alone anymore." The town's small hotel provided a modest dining room where Kaitlyn could sit without being on display. A kindly waitress brought coffee and biscuits, eyeing Kaitlyn's wedding dress with poorly concealed curiosity. "I arrived in town last night," Adam explained once they were alone. "I heard there was a ranch for sale, and I've been looking to settle down." He smiled ruefully. "I wasn't expecting to intervene in a forced marriage my first day here. Quinn bought our ranch when my father died," Kaitlyn said, staring into her coffee. "I didn't know I was part of the bargain until yesterday." She looked up, fierce pride flashing through her tears. "I told Quinn I wouldn't marry him. That's when he—" Her voice faltered. He said he'd teach me obedience, had his men drag me to the church. When I still refused, he decided a public whipping would change my mind. Adam's jaw tightened. That's not how a man treats a woman he claims to want as his wife. He doesn't want a wife, Kaitlyn said bitterly. He wants the Porter water rights. Our land has the only year-round spring in the county. My father knew its value, but after Mother died, he started drinking and gambling. She sighed. I tried to save the ranch, but I couldn't stop him from making that deal with Quinn. Adam studied her thoughtfully. Despite her torn dress and tangled hair, there was a strength in her posture, a determination in her eyes that impressed him. You have family you can stay with, none nearby. My aunt lives in St. Louis, but I've never met her. Kaitlyn straightened her shoulders. I won't run away. This is my home. Admirable, but Quinn seems the type to hold a grudge, and now I've made an enemy of him too. Adam drank his coffee, considering their options. I still want to buy a ranch in the area. What if I made an offer for your family's property? If I can outbid Quinn, it's too late, Kaitlyn interrupted. The papers are signed. The only way I could stay was to marry him. She hesitated, then asked, Why did you help me? You don't know me. Adam's expression softened. Some things are just wrong, Miss Porter. A man forcing a woman to marry him is one of them. He glanced down at his bandaged hand. Besides, my ma would haunt me if I rode past a lady in distress. Their conversation was interrupted by the hotel owner, a nervous man named Jenkins, who approached their table wringing his hands. Mr. Orwell, Miss Porter, he said in a low voice, Quinn's men are asking around town about you both. I think it might be best if you weren't here when they come by. Kaitlyn paled, but Adam thanked the man calmly. Is there a back way out, through the kitchen? Jenkins confirmed. And sir, if you're looking for somewhere to lie low, Old Man Winters has a hunting cabin about 5 miles north. He won't mind if you use it for a few days. Adam nodded his thanks and helped Kaitlyn to her feet. We need to get you out of that dress, he said, then flushed slightly at her startled expression. I mean, it's too recognizable. We need to find you something less conspicuous. Jenkins's wife, a practical woman with a kind face, provided a simple skirt and blouse from her own closet. While Kaitlyn changed, Adam arranged for 2 horses to be brought around to the back of the hotel. I can't ask you to get more involved, Kaitlyn protested when she emerged in her borrowed clothes. Quinn is dangerous. He'll kill you if he gets the chance. Better men than Bartholomew Quinn have tried, Adam replied with a grim smile. Besides, I already caught his lash. I'm involved whether we like it or not. They slipped out through the kitchen and mounted the waiting horses. Adam led them north out of town, taking a roundabout route through the scrubby hills to avoid being spotted. Kaitlyn rode well, he noted, sitting her horse with the easy confidence of someone raised in the saddle. Tell me about the ranch, Adam said as they rode. Your father built it. My grandfather, Kaitlyn corrected. He settled here after the Mexican-American War, built the house himself, dug the well, planted the first orchard. Her voice softened with pride. We've never had the biggest spread, but the Porter land has the sweetest water and the greenest grass for miles. And Quinn wants it for his cattle. Quinn wants everything, Kaitlyn said bitterly. He owns half the valley already. With our water rights, he could control all the ranching in the county. Adam nodded thoughtfully. There might be a way to challenge the sale. If your father was drunk when he made the deal, or if Quinn used coercion. I've thought of that, Kaitlyn admitted, but the judge in Willow Creek is in Quinn's pocket and without money for a lawyer. She trailed off, then gave him a curious look. You said you came here to buy a ranch. Are you retiring from? She hesitated. From gunslinging? Adam finished with a wry smile. Something like that. I've saved enough to start over. Thought I'd try my hand at something that doesn't involve looking over my shoulder all the time. They reached the cabin as the sun was beginning to set. It was a simple one-room structure built of rough logs, with a stone fireplace and a small porch. Inside was sparse but clean: a table and chairs, a narrow bed, and basic cooking implements. It's not much, Adam said apologetically, but it should keep us hidden while we figure out what to do. Kaitlyn looked around and nodded. It's safer than being in town. She turned to him with a serious expression. I need to ask you something, Mr. Orwell. When you stopped Quinn, you said I was already taken. Did you mean that? Are you expecting? Her voice trailed off, but her meaning was clear. Adam's eyes widened. No, that is, I only said that to stop him. I have no expectations, Miss Porter, I give you my word. The tension in her shoulders eased slightly. Thank you, and please call me Kaitlyn. I think we're beyond formalities at this point. Kaitlyn, he agreed with a smile. Now let me get a fire started before it gets dark. We could both use a hot meal. As Adam busied himself with the fire, Kaitlyn explored the small cabin. There were supplies in a cupboard: beans, coffee, flour, and salt left by the owner for hunting trips. She found a pot and began preparing a simple meal while Adam tended to the horses. They ate by firelight, sitting at the rough wooden table, their conversation gradually shifting from immediate concerns to more personal matters. Where are you from, Adam? Kaitlyn asked. Originally, Pennsylvania. My father had a farm there, but he died in the war. Adam's expression grew distant. After that, my mother and I moved west looking for a fresh start. She died of cholera in Kansas when I was 16. I've been on my own since then. I'm sorry, Kaitlyn said softly. It's hard losing parents. Adam nodded. What about you? Have you always lived in Willow Creek? Born and raised, she confirmed. Never been farther than Austin. My mother always dreamed of seeing San Francisco, but she shrugged. Life had other plans. As the night deepened, they faced the awkward reality of their sleeping arrangements. The cabin had only one bed. I'll take the floor, Adam said immediately. You take the bed. Kaitlyn looked at the hard dirt floor and frowned. That's not fair to you. This is already, I've slept on worse, he assured her. Much worse. Despite her protests, Adam insisted, and eventually Kaitlyn relented. She took the bed, and Adam made a pallet near the fire with his saddle blanket. As she drifted off to sleep, Kaitlyn found herself studying his profile in the firelight, wondering about the life that had brought him to Willow Creek just when she needed him most. Morning came with the sound of birdsong and the scent of coffee brewing. Kaitlyn awoke to find Adam already up, tending to the horses outside. She smoothed her borrowed clothes as best she could and went to join him. I think we should scout the ranch today, Adam said as they shared a breakfast of cornbread and coffee. See what we're dealing with, how many men Quinn has there. Kaitlyn nodded. It's about 3 miles east of here. There's a ridge overlooking the house where we can watch without being seen. They set out mid-morning, riding carefully through the scrub brush and mesquite trees that dotted the landscape. Kaitlyn led the way, navigating the unfamiliar terrain with the confidence of someone who'd grown up exploring every inch of the countryside. When they reached the ridge, Adam produced a brass spyglass from his saddlebag. Through it, they could see the Porter ranch house below, a solid 2-story structure with a wide porch, surrounded by outbuildings and corrals. Quinn had wasted no time moving in. His men were visible around the property, and a new herd of cattle grazed in the south pasture. That's Jackson Cooper, Kaitlyn said, pointing to a lean man giving orders in the yard. He's Quinn's foreman, mean as a rattlesnake and twice as deadly. Adam studied the layout carefully. I count 8 men plus Quinn, heavy odds. There used to be a back way into the house, Kaitlyn said thoughtfully. A root cellar door hidden behind the woodpile. My father and I used it during an Apache raid years ago. I doubt Quinn knows about it. What are you thinking? Adam asked, noting the determined set of her jaw. The bill of sale, Kaitlyn explained. It should be in my father's desk. If there's a flaw in it, something we can use. Adam frowned. It's too dangerous for you to go in there. For me, Kaitlyn raised an eyebrow. Quinn's men are looking for you too, and they know what you look like. I can disguise myself as one of the Mexican house servants. I speak enough Spanish to pass a casual inspection. Absolutely not, Adam protested. If Quinn catches you, he won't, Kaitlyn insisted. I grew up in that house. I know every creaking floorboard, every hidden corner, and it's my fight, Adam. Their argument was interrupted by the sound of approaching horses. Adam quickly pulled Kaitlyn into the cover of a rocky outcropping as 4 of Quinn's men rode along the base of the ridge, clearly searching for someone. "They're still looking for us," Adam whispered, his body protectively close to hers in their hiding place. "That means Quinn hasn't given up." Kaitlyn nodded, acutely aware of Adam's proximity, the solid warmth of him. When their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them, a current of understanding that went beyond their unusual circumstances. The riders eventually moved on, and Adam and Kaitlyn retreated to the cabin to formulate a plan. They spent the afternoon debating strategies, their initial disagreement evolving into a collaborative effort. By nightfall, they had decided that Kaitlyn would indeed attempt to retrieve the bill of sale, but not alone. Adam would create a distraction that would draw Quinn's men away from the house. "If we do this," Adam said seriously, "we need to be prepared for what comes after. Even with proof the sale wasn't legitimate, Quinn won't just hand the ranch back." "I know," Kaitlyn said quietly, "but it's a start, and I'm tired of running." That night, as they sat by the fire, their conversation drifted to more personal matters again. Adam found himself telling Kaitlyn about his years as a gunfighter, not the exaggerated tales that had earned him his reputation, but the lonely reality of a life spent moving from town to town, never staying long enough to form attachments. "Is that why you want a ranch?" Kaitlyn asked. "To put down roots," Adam nodded, poking at the fire with a stick. "I've had enough of drifting, enough of being known only for how fast I can draw." He glanced up at her. "What about you? What would you have done if your father hadn't made that deal with Quinn?" Kaitlyn smiled wistfully. "Run the ranch, maybe find someone who loved the land as much as I do, start a family." Her smile faded. "Quinn wasn't the first man to come calling after my father died, but the others at least had the decency to ask, not buy." "There are good men out there," Adam said softly. "I'm beginning to see that," Kaitlyn replied, meeting his gaze. They set their plan in motion the next day. Using clothing borrowed from the cabin and some creative adjustments, Kaitlyn transformed herself into the image of a Mexican servant girl, complete with a shawl that partially obscured her face. Adam, meanwhile, prepared to create a distraction at the far end of the property by starting a small, controlled fire in an unused pasture. "Be careful," Adam said as they prepared to part ways. "If anything seems wrong, get out. The papers aren't worth your life." Kaitlyn nodded, touched by his concern. "You too. Quinn's men won't hesitate to shoot first and ask questions later." They rode to within a quarter-mile of the ranch, then separated. Adam circled wide to approach from the north, while Kaitlyn made her way to the back of the property where the hidden cellar entrance was located. Heart pounding, Kaitlyn slipped through the tall grass toward her childhood home. She could see Quinn's men moving about the yard, but none paid attention to a servant girl approaching from the direction of the bunkhouse. The woodpile was untouched, and to her relief, the small door behind it was still there, half buried in earth but functional. She had just reached it when a plume of smoke rose from the northern pasture. Shouts rang out as Quinn's men spotted the fire. Within moments, most of the hands were racing toward it, leaving only 2 men at the main house. Kaitlyn seized her opportunity, prying open the cellar door and slipping inside. The familiar musty smell of earth and stored vegetables welcomed her as she made her way through the darkness to the stairs that led up to the kitchen. The house felt different. Quinn had already begun changing things, removing her mother's curtains, replacing the comfortable old furniture with gaudy new pieces. Keeping her head down, Kaitlyn moved through the kitchen, where a cook was busily preparing a meal, and into the hallway that led to her father's study. She was nearly there when a door opened, and Bartholomew Quinn himself stepped out, a cigar clamped between his teeth. Kaitlyn froze, then quickly lowered her gaze and mumbled "Perdón, señor" in her best Spanish accent. Quinn barely glanced at her, distracted by the commotion outside. "Tell Cooper I want to know what's happening with that fire," he ordered, assuming she was one of the house servants. Kaitlyn nodded meekly and hurried past him, her heart hammering in her chest. Once he'd gone out to the porch, she slipped into the study and rushed to her father's desk. The bill of sale was there, in the top drawer, along with other papers related to the ranch. Kaitlyn quickly scanned it, looking for any flaw, any loophole. And there it was, her father's signature, unmistakably forged. She had seen his handwriting all her life. This awkward scrawl wasn't his. Quinn must have realized her father was too drunk to sign and had someone else do it. Tucking the paper into her bodice, Kaitlyn prepared to leave, but voices in the hallway stopped her. Quinn and another man were returning to the study. Frantically, she looked around for a hiding place, finally ducking behind the heavy curtains just as the door opened. "Fire's nothing to worry about," Quinn was saying. "Probably some careless drifter. Cooper's handling it." "What about the Porter girl and that gunslinger?" the other man asked. Kaitlyn recognized the voice of Judge Williams, the corrupt local magistrate. "Still searching," Quinn growled. "But they can't hide forever, and when I find them—" He left the threat unspoken. "Just remember," Williams cautioned, "Orwell has a reputation. He's not some cowhand you can bully." "Every man bleeds the same," Quinn replied dismissively. "Now, about those water rights. I want them transferred immediately." Their conversation continued, detailing Quinn's plans to dam the spring and control water access for the entire valley. Kaitlyn listened in horror. As she realized the full scope of his ambition, it wasn't just her ranch he wanted, but dominance over every farmer and rancher for miles around. Finally, the men moved to leave, but as Quinn reached the door, a commotion erupted outside. Gunshots rang out, followed by shouting. "What now?" Quinn snarled, rushing to the window, the same window where Kaitlyn was hiding behind the curtain. She held her breath as he yanked the fabric aside, exposing her partially before his attention was drawn to the scene outside. "It's Orwell," he exclaimed. The fool came back. Kaitlyn's heart lurched as she peered around Quinn to see Adam in the yard, surrounded by Quinn's men. He was on foot, his hands raised, his face bloody. "Bring him in," Quinn shouted through the open window. This was not part of the plan. Adam was supposed to start the fire and retreat, not get himself captured. Had something gone wrong, or was he deliberately creating a bigger distraction to ensure her escape? Quinn and the judge hurried from the room, giving Kaitlyn the chance to slip out. Instead of heading back to the cellar, however, she followed them at a distance. She couldn't leave Adam behind. From the shadows of the hallway, she watched as Quinn's men dragged Adam into the main room. His hands were bound behind him, and blood trickled from a cut above his eye. "Montana Wolf," Quinn said with mocking respect. "Not so fearsome now, are you?" He circled Adam like a predator. "Where's the Porter girl?" "Safe," Adam replied, his voice steady despite his predicament. "Somewhere you'll never find her." Quinn struck him across the face. "I own her just like I own this ranch, and I'll have her back." "A woman isn't property," Adam said, echoing his words from their first confrontation. "And neither is this ranch legally. You forged the bill of sale." Quinn's face darkened. "That's a dangerous accusation, Orwell." "It's the truth," Adam insisted. "Edward Porter never signed those papers. You took advantage of a grieving, drunk old man and then forged his signature when he was too far gone to hold a pen." Kaitlyn watched in amazement. How had Adam known? Had he guessed, or was he simply trying to provoke Quinn? "It doesn't matter," Quinn said dismissively. "No one will take your word over mine and the judge's." He turned to his men. "Take him out back. I think a whipping is in order, just like the one his little bride to be escaped." As they dragged Adam toward the back door, Kaitlyn made a decision. Slipping back to the study, she retrieved her father's old revolver from its hiding place in the hollow book on the shelf. It was loaded. Her father had always kept it ready. She followed at a distance as Quinn's men took Adam to the barn. They tied his hands to a post, tearing his shirt open to expose his back. Quinn himself took up the whip, testing it with a flick that cracked in the still air. "1 lash for every day you've kept me from what's mine," Quinn said, raising the whip. Kaitlyn stepped into the doorway, revolver raised. "Drop it, Quinn." Everyone turned in shock. Quinn's surprise quickly gave way to a cruel smile. "Well, well, my runaway bride returns." "And playing dress-up, I see?" "I said drop it," Kaitlyn repeated, her voice stronger than she felt. "I have the bill of sale. The signature isn't my father's. Judge Williams will have a hard time explaining that to a federal marshal." "You stupid girl," Quinn sneered. "Do you think one gun against all of us makes a difference?" "It might," came a new voice from outside. Sheriff Daniels, a man Kaitlyn had known all her life, stepped into view with his deputy. Both had their guns drawn, especially with these to back it up. Quinn's face contorted with rage. "Daniels, what are you doing here?" "Got word there might be trouble," the sheriff replied evenly. "And it seems I was right." He nodded to Kaitlyn. "Miss Porter, been looking for you since that unpleasantness in town." "She's trespassing on my property," Quinn blustered. "That remains to be seen," Daniels replied. "Judge Carson from the next county is riding in tomorrow. He'll want to examine those papers Miss Porter mentioned." His gaze hardened. "And hear about that attempted whipping in town. We don't treat women that way in Willow Creek, Quinn." "Not even if you think you own them." Quinn looked from the sheriff to his men, calculating his odds. Finally, he dropped the whip. "This isn't over," he growled. "For now, it is," Daniels said firmly. "My deputy will stay here to make sure everyone behaves while Miss Porter collects her things. You and I are going to have a long talk in town." As the sheriff led Quinn away, Kaitlyn rushed to Adam, untying his hands. "Are you all right?" she asked, her fingers gentle on his bruised face. "I've been better," he admitted with a wry smile. "But my timing was perfect, wasn't it?" "Your timing nearly got you killed," Kaitlyn scolded, though there was no real anger in her voice. "What happened to the plan?" "I saw Quinn's men heading back too soon," Adam explained. "I was afraid they'd catch you, so I let myself be seen. Figured they couldn't resist capturing the Montana wolf." Kaitlyn shook her head, torn between exasperation and gratitude. "That was either very brave or very foolish." "Maybe a bit of both," Adam conceded, wincing as she helped him to his feet. "Did you get what we needed?" Kaitlyn patted her bodice where the bill of sale was hidden. "Yes, and I heard Quinn and the judge plotting. They're trying to control all the water in the valley." "That doesn't surprise me," Adam said. "Men like Quinn always want more." With the deputy's watchful eye ensuring Quinn's remaining men kept their distance, Kaitlyn gathered some of her personal belongings from the house. It felt strange to be packing her things from her childhood home as if she were a visitor, but the ranch wasn't truly hers again yet. The sheriff returned the next day with Judge Carson, a stern, silver-haired man known for his fairness. After examining the bill of sale and hearing testimony from both Kaitlyn and Adam, as well as several townspeople who had witnessed Quinn's treatment of Kaitlyn, the judge ruled that the sale was indeed invalid. "The signature is clearly forged," Judge Carson declared, "and the circumstances of the agreement show bad faith on Mr. Quinn's part. Furthermore, the attempted coercion of Miss Porter through violence adds a criminal element to the case." He turned to Quinn, who stood fuming beside his lawyer. "Mr. Quinn, you will vacate the Porter property immediately. You are also hereby fined for assault and ordered to stay at least 1 mile from Miss Porter at all times." Quinn stormed out of the courthouse, but not before hissing at Adam, "This isn't over, Orwell. No one makes a fool of me and lives to tell about it." Despite the threat, the day was a victory. Kaitlyn was granted full ownership of her family's ranch, and Quinn was publicly humiliated. As they rode back to the Porter ranch together, Kaitlyn felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "I can't believe it's really over," she said as the familiar roofline came into view. "I never thought I'd see my home again." "It's not entirely over," Adam cautioned. "Quinn isn't the type to accept defeat gracefully. He'll be looking for revenge." Kaitlyn nodded soberly. "I know. But for today, I just want to enjoy being home." The house felt empty with just the two of them, Quinn having taken all his men and most of the livestock when he left. Kaitlyn moved through the rooms, removing the changes Quinn had made, restoring what she could of her family's legacy. Adam helped, working alongside her without complaint, repairing fences, tending to the few animals that remained, and securing the property against potential threats. In the evenings, they would sit on the porch, watching the sunset and talking about their lives, their dreams, and increasingly, their future. 2 weeks after reclaiming the ranch, Kaitlyn found Adam in the barn examining a broken wagon wheel. The sight of him, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms as he worked, caused a flutter in her chest that had become familiar. "Adam," she said, approaching him with determination, "we need to talk." He straightened, wiping his hands on a rag. "Sounds serious." "It is." Kaitlyn took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about what happens next. The ranch is secure legally, but Quinn is still out there and I'm still alone here." "You're not alone," Adam said quietly. "I'm here." "For how long?" Kaitlyn asked, meeting his eyes directly. "You came to buy a ranch." "The Jessup place west of town is for sale. I saw you riding out that way yesterday." Adam nodded slowly. "I did look at it. It's a good property." "So you'll be leaving soon?" Kaitlyn tried to keep the disappointment from her voice. "I don't have to," Adam replied, stepping closer. "Kaitlyn, these past weeks, I've come to care for you, more than I thought possible in such a short time." Kaitlyn's heart raced. "I care for you too, Adam, but I won't be a charity case. I won't have you staying out of obligation or pity." "Pity?" Adam looked genuinely surprised. "Is that what you think this is?" He reached for her hand, his touch gentle despite the calluses. "I've spent my whole life moving from place to place, never allowing myself to form attachments, but with you, for the first time, I want to stay. Not out of obligation, but because when I'm with you, I feel like I've finally found home." Tears welled in Kaitlyn's eyes. "Adam." Before she could continue, the sound of approaching horses interrupted them. Adam immediately tensed, reaching for the rifle that was never far from his side these days. "Stay here," he ordered, moving to the barn door, but Kaitlyn was already beside him, her own revolver in hand. "My ranch, my fight," she reminded him. Together, they peered out to see 5 riders approaching Quinn and 4 of his men. All were armed, and Quinn's face was set in a mask of hatred. "He's violating the judge's order," Kaitlyn whispered. "He's supposed to stay a mile away." "I don't think he cares about judges anymore," Adam replied grimly. "This is about revenge now." They retreated further into the barn as the riders drew closer. Adam quickly assessed their options. The main house was too far to reach without being seen, but the barn offered some cover and multiple exit points. "Porter," Quinn's voice boomed across the yard. "I know you're here, you and that gunslinger both." Adam and Kaitlyn exchanged a glance. "I'll draw their attention," Adam whispered. "You circle around behind them." "No," Kaitlyn hissed. "We stay together." Before they could argue further, shots rang out, splintering the wood near their heads. Quinn's men had dismounted and were spreading out, surrounding the barn. "Come out now, and maybe I'll let you live, Porter." Quinn shouted. "Orwell dies either way." Adam checked his ammunition and nodded to Kaitlyn. "On 3, we make for the back door. Ready? 1, 2, a crashing sound from above interrupted him as one of Quinn's men dropped through the hayloft. Adam spun, firing in one fluid motion. The man fell with a cry, but the noise had alerted the others to their position. Gunfire erupted from multiple directions. Adam pushed Kaitlyn behind a stack of hay bales and returned fire, his shots measured and precise. 2 more of Quinn's men went down, but Quinn himself and his remaining henchmen were now inside the barn, using the stalls for cover. "You can't win, Orwell," Quinn called. "Even if you kill me, you'll hang for it. No one will believe it was self-defense, not with your reputation." "They will when Sheriff Daniels gets here," Kaitlyn shouted back. "He's already on his way." This was a bluff they had no way of knowing if anyone had heard the gunfire, but it caused a moment's hesitation in Quinn's advance. Adam used the opportunity to signal Kaitlyn toward a rear exit. They had nearly reached it when the last of Quinn's men appeared in the doorway. Adam fired, hitting the man in the shoulder, but not before he got off a shot of his own. Kaitlyn cried out as the bullet grazed her arm. Adam's expression darkened with fury. In one swift movement, he stepped into the open, firing twice more. The henchman collapsed. "Kaitlyn," Adam was at her side instantly. "How bad is it?" "Just a graze," she assured him, though blood was seeping through her sleeve. "I'm all right." The momentary distraction cost them. Quinn appeared from behind a stall, his gun aimed directly at Adam's back. Kaitlyn saw him first. "Adam!" she screamed, pushing him aside as Quinn fired. The bullet meant for Adam caught Kaitlyn in the side. She stumbled, falling against Adam, who caught her with one arm while bringing his gun up with the other. His shot caught Quinn squarely in the chest. The cattle baron's expression registered shock, then emptiness as he collapsed to the ground. "Kaitlyn." Adam lowered her gently to the hay-strewn floor. Blood was spreading across her shirt, but her eyes were clear as they met his. "Is he dead?" she asked weakly. Adam nodded, tearing a strip from his own shirt to press against her wound. "Yes, and his men too, I think. Hold on, Kaitlyn. I need to get you to a doctor." "I'll be fine," she insisted, though her face was pale with pain. "It's not that bad." But Adam could see the amount of blood she was losing. With careful movements, he lifted her in his arms and carried her out of the barn. Quinn's horses were still outside, nervous but present. Adam managed to get Kaitlyn onto one, then mounted behind her, holding her securely against his chest. The ride to town was a blur of fear and determination. Adam spoke constantly to Kaitlyn, keeping her awake, making her respond to him. By the time they reached the doctor's house, her responses had grown sluggish, and her skin was cold despite the warm day. Dr. Miller took one look at them and cleared his dining table, directing Adam to lay Kaitlyn there. "What happened?" he demanded, already cutting away Kaitlyn's bloodied clothing. "Quinn," Adam explained tersely. "He came for revenge, shot her in the side." The doctor worked quickly, examining the wound. "The bullet's still in there, I'll have to remove it." He looked at Adam's pale, worried face. "She's lost a lot of blood, but the bullet missed anything vital as far as I can tell. She's young and strong. With proper care, she should recover." "Do whatever it takes," Adam said, his voice rough with emotion. "Whatever the cost. You care about her, doctor." Miller observed as he prepared his instruments. Adam nodded, his eyes never leaving Kaitlyn's face. "More than I thought possible." The doctor's wife appeared with clean water and bandages. "Sheriff's on his way to the Porter ranch," she informed them. "Someone heard the shooting." Adam explained briefly what had happened, then refused to leave Kaitlyn's side as the doctor performed the delicate surgery to remove the bullet. She remained unconscious throughout, her breathing shallow but steady. "When it was done, doctor." Miller bandaged the wound and had Adam carry Kaitlyn to a spare bedroom. "She needs rest now," he said. "And so do you. That cut on your head should be stitched." Adam barely felt his own injuries, but he submitted to the doctor's care, allowing himself to be cleaned and stitched while maintaining a vigil at Kaitlyn's bedside. Sheriff Daniels arrived as the sun was setting. "Quinn and his men are all dead," he confirmed after hearing Adam's account. "Self-defense, clear as day. No one will question it, especially given Quinn's violation of the judge's order." Adam nodded absently, his attention still focused on Kaitlyn's pale face. "She saved my life," he said softly. "That bullet was meant for me." The sheriff studied him thoughtfully. "You love her, don't you, Orwell?" Adam looked up, startled by the direct question, then slowly nodded. "Yes, I do." "Then I reckon there's only one thing to do when she wakes up," Daniels said with a gentle smile. "And it involves a ring and a preacher who won't mind that neither of you is dressed for the occasion." For 3 days, Kaitlyn drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes recognizing Adam beside her, other times lost in fever dreams. Adam rarely left her side, sleeping in a chair by her bed, eating only when the doctor's wife insisted. On the 4th morning, Kaitlyn woke clear-headed, her eyes immediately finding Adam asleep in the chair, his hand still holding hers. "Adam," she whispered, her voice rough from disuse. He was instantly awake, leaning forward. "Kaitlyn, thank God, how do you feel?" Like I've been shot, she replied with a weak smile, but alive thanks to you. Adam shook his head. I should have protected you better. Quinn was aiming for me. And I couldn't let him hit you, Kaitlyn said simply. Just like you couldn't let him whip me in town. She squeezed his hand. We protect each other, that's what, she hesitated. What people who love each other do, Adam finished for her, his gaze intense. Kaitlyn, when I thought I might lose you, I realized I've been falling in love with you since the moment I stepped between you and Quinn's whip. Tears filled Kaitlyn's eyes. I love you too, Adam, I think I have from the start. Adam brought her hand to his lips. Then marry me. Not because you need protection or because I caught a lash for you, but because we belong together. Because I want to build a life with you on that land you love so much. Yes, Kaitlyn whispered without hesitation. Yes, I'll marry you, Adam Orwell. Their wedding took place 2 weeks later, once Kaitlyn was strong enough to stand without assistance. It was a simple ceremony in the Porter ranch house, attended by a handful of townspeople who had supported Kaitlyn against Quinn. Sheriff Daniels gave the bride away, and Dr. Miller and his wife stood as witnesses. Kaitlyn wore a simple white dress, nothing like the elaborate wedding gown Quinn had forced her into, and she carried wildflowers Adam had picked that morning. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Adam kissed her with such tenderness that several of the guests discreetly wiped away tears. In the months that followed, Adam and Kaitlyn worked side by side to restore the Porter now Orwell ranch to prosperity. Adam sold his horse and saddle from his gunslinging days to buy new breeding stock, and Kaitlyn used her knowledge of the land to expand the orchards. They built a new barn to replace the one damaged in the gunfight and added a nursery to the main house, planning for the family they both wanted. Word spread through the territory that the Montana Wolf had hung up his guns for good, settling down with the brave woman who'd faced down Bartholomew Quinn. Occasionally, men from Adam's past would appear, looking to make a name for themselves by challenging the legendary gunfighter, but Adam always refused. My fighting days are over, he would say, his arm protectively around Kaitlyn. I've found something worth more than any reputation. A year after their wedding, as spring returned to the valley, Kaitlyn gave birth to a son they named James, after Adam's father. Standing on the porch of their home, Adam cradled his newborn son while Kaitlyn leaned against him, her heart full. Do you ever regret it? She asked softly. Giving up the excitement of your old life for this? Adam looked out over their flourishing ranch, then down at his son's sleeping face before meeting his wife's eyes. Not for a single moment, he said honestly. Every day with you is an adventure greater than any I've known. Kaitlyn smiled, remembering the desperate day when a stranger had caught a whip meant for her and changed her life forever. To think it all started with you saying I was already taken. I didn't know then how true those words would become, Adam replied, kissing her gently. But I'm grateful every day that they did. As the sun set behind the distant mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Adam and Kaitlyn Orwell stood together in the life they had built from adversity and love a life neither of them had imagined possible before fate, and courage brought them together in a dusty street in Willow Creek, Texas, where a cowboy caught a lash and found his heart. In the years that followed, the Orwell Ranch became one of the most prosperous in the county. Adam's skills with horses and Kaitlyn's knowledge of crops created a diverse operation that weathered droughts and economic downturns better than most. They added 2 more children to their family, a daughter named Sarah 3 years after James, and another son, Thomas, 2 years after that. The legend of the Montana Wolf faded with time, replaced by stories of Adam Orwell's fair dealings and generous nature. He helped neighboring ranchers during hard times, offered fair prices for grazing rights to the precious Porter water, and served on the town council, working to ensure Willow Creek grew in prosperity and justice. Kaitlyn, too, found new purpose beyond the ranch. She started a small school for the children of nearby farms and ranches, teaching them to read and write in a spare room of their home until the town built a proper schoolhouse. Her brush with Quinn's cruelty made her a fierce advocate for women's rights, and she often provided shelter for women escaping abusive situations. On their 20th wedding anniversary, as they watched their children, now young adults, dancing at the Harvest Festival in town, Adam took Kaitlyn's hand and led her away from the crowd. "I have something for you," he said, producing a small box from his pocket. Inside was a delicate gold locket. "Adam, it's beautiful," Kaitlyn gasped. "Open it," he urged. Inside was a tiny piece of leather, carefully preserved. Kaitlyn looked at him questioningly. "It's a piece of the whip," Adam explained. "The one Quinn tried to use on you. I kept it all these years to remind me of the moment my life truly began." Tears filled Kaitlyn's eyes as she closed the locket and let Adam fasten it around her neck. "I never needed a reminder," she said softly. "I've had you." Adam pulled her close, still amazed after all these years at how perfectly she fit against him. "And you always will, Kaitlyn Orwell, until my last breath and beyond." As they returned to the festival, hand in hand, they passed a young couple arguing fiercely near the edge of the dance floor. The young man grabbed the woman's arm roughly, and Adam immediately stepped forward, his protective instincts still strong. "That's not how a gentleman treats a lady," he said firmly, echoing the words he'd spoken to Quinn 2 decades earlier. The young man released the woman immediately, recognizing Adam. "Sorry, Mr. Orwell, we were just having a disagreement." "There are better ways to resolve disagreements than force," Adam replied, his voice gentle but firm. "A man proves his worth by his respect for others, not his power over them." As the chastened young man apologized to his companion, Kaitlyn squeezed Adam's hand. Some things hadn't changed in 20 years: his sense of justice, his willingness to stand up for those who needed protection. These were the qualities that had drawn her to him from the beginning, that had turned a chance intervention into a lifetime of love. "Still saving damsels in distress after all these years," she teased as they continued toward the dance floor. Adam smiled, pulling her into his arms as the music began again. "Only one damsel ever truly needed saving," he murmured against her ear. "And she ended up saving me right back." As they danced beneath the stars, surrounded by the community they had helped build and the family they had created together, Kaitlyn and Adam Orwell embodied the promise of the frontier that with courage, determination, and love, even the wildest of Wests could become home.